thoughts on that game and how that one played out? Obviously, that's the end of the winning streak, and Sydney came in with a plan and they executed it.
Yeah, I think you got to give them full credit, right? They have a hell of a good team. They played really well tonight. I think for a 4-game stretch, we also played really well. Unfortunately, we didn't play great tonight, right? But I think in the other games, you've seen us operate at a pretty high level for a new group and all the new players and things like that. And today it got a little hard, right? They had a good plan. They had good energy. They were disruptive on a lot of things. And, like that's just part of basketball, and that's what it is at times, right? We really tried to get our rhythm. Our guys were trying. You got to give Sydney a lot of credit for being disruptive.
What was the big challenge about getting the offense going, considering how disruptive they were on Bryce especially?
Yeah, I just think you see the connection piece. Basketball is about rhythm and connecting and being able to find your space and your pace. And, we did have 26 assists on 30 made field goals. So when we did, get into things, we assisted on almost every basket we made, which is another really good sign. The problem was the other shots, right? The ones when pressure sets in, all players at every level, right? They've been good players at every level. I think when you get to the professional level, you've been the best player maybe at under 14s or under 16s or under 18s, and you kind of matriculate up through. And the way you handle pressure as a young player is you beat it, and then when you get to this level and the highest level, you can't go inward at times. You've actually got to go outward, and that's where our team will get there. That's where you've got to connect and you've got to get second side actions, and you got to screen, and then you got to put pressure on the rim, and you got to throw the ball to the outside, and then you got to find another action. And tonight we were probably just a step slow, and like I said, you got to give Sydney credit for their length and their intensity and their athleticism, their plan, all those things, and they were disruptive, and they kind of knocked us out of our rhythm.
Up until this point, you guys have been a top 3 defense.
Yep.
It seemed like they got a lot of good looks at the rim early. It seemed like they catch and shoot threes in rhythm. What do you see was the issue defensively?
Yeah, I would again. The victory goes to the aggressive probably the majority of the time, and they got the upper hand on us. Now, when we started the game with our starters and probably the first 4-ish minutes, we were right there, and then they had a run the second part of the quarter. It also happened in the second quarter, right? So, just us with different playing groups, right? You got your starting group, and then you got your bridge group, you got your finishing group, and we just didn't quite have the cohesion that we needed with different lineups out there. And, they had some really good looks, and, the guys were really trying to connect. We were trying to do the right thing. We were probably just knocked out of rhythm on both ends of the ball. So, our offense flows better, right? Everybody's offense flows better when you're not taking the ball out of the net, right? It's pretty simple, right? And when they score that many points and that many baskets, now you're always going back against the set defense. This is a fast-paced, hard charging league, right? It's different when every time you're coming up and you're playing 5-on-5 in the half court. And we had that the majority of the night, where I would say in our first 3 games, it was the opposite.
Right. With 9 other teams in the league, everybody's got their style, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's been trying to work out how the hell do you stop Bryce Cotton.
Yeah.
As you're watching the game unfold, do you look up and see that he doesn't have that many shot attempts? Do you have a number in your head of how many shots he probably should take?
Yeah. Well, number one, it's on me, right? That's leadership's about, shouldering the responsibility. And he's a great player, and we got to figure out a way to get him more shots and to get him back to the ball. However we do that, right? That's probably the biggest connection piece for me. All the years at Perth, there was sort of a built-in system around him at times, right? Whether he was on ball or off ball, and we're trying to find that rhythm. Yeah, we know that he's one of the most unselfish superstars of all time, too. So if he starts to play and he gets off the ball, and it comes back to him a second time, he's still thinking, I'll make the right play. And today we just couldn't quite get the ball back to him, right? So, that's where we've got to figure out where the screen is, where the screening angle needs to be, how do we roll, and then how do you flash behind him when Qual and some of those guys are all over him, and the rhythm just wasn't there. But yes, do we have to get him more shots? Yeah. Is there a number in my head? Probably not because it's Bryce Cotton, but when you're looking up there and he's in single digits on a lot of things, you're like, this isn't the right rhythm of the game. Same thing with DJ a little bit, right? You know, DJ got going there, he made some spot shots, and then he stuck on 14 the rest of the time, and we couldn't quite get him. And then all of a sudden, you know, DJ's trying to help us at the end of the game and try to take a couple of tougher ones just because he was trying to help us and trying to find a rhythm again. So, you know, us tuning all those guys up and getting those guys in those actions will be priority number one. I don't think we felt like we were going to go undefeated. It's too hard of a league. It's a long journey, 33 games. This will give us an opportunity to kind of go back in there and go to the drawing board and sync everybody up, and then we come back at it on Thursday.
So, Mike, you start the season 0-3, really good start. Obviously, kind of a little bit of blow losing to a team where you're betting favourites. What kind of mentality do you instill in your players after a loss like that?
That it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And we'll just keep moving forward, right? There were some positives out there. I mean, we did have 26 assists, you know, on 30 made baskets. I think, you know, when we connected and we moved the ball, we got easy shots and we scored. I'd have to see the breakdown of after misses and makes on that, but, you know, that's a positive that we can take from, you know, and then we got a bunch of three-point attempts, but we didn't get to the free throw line. One of the things that was a factor the other night was 33 free throw attempts, right? Only 23s in that game. It was reversed. So we probably got to get a little bit more aggressive and get downhill. Like I think in the Tazzy game, we had 27 in the first half. We shoot 15 for the game. You know, that's probably indicative of how the game went in our style tonight. And we got to be more aggressive. We've got to get to the paint as early as you can in the shot clock to help everybody, you know, connect and get open shots. And that's when you get the ball back to Bryce at times.
Made of the return of KD, and the fans were certainly hyped up. Do you think that emotion played any part with your players?
I don't.
No?
I mean, there's only a couple of guys that played with him. I think he's a hell of a player. We're lucky that he's in the league. He had a really, really good year. He's a very talented scorer. You know, he does a lot of really good things. He's playing a little bit different for them, but they still generate a lot of offense through him. You know, he had our attention as McVay did, as, you know, Bryce Hamilton did, you know, but we played catch up a little bit tonight, you know, so you got to give them credit.
Mike, you talk about the positives. Lynn Cameron tonight, 17, 7,
Yeah.
7 career best in assists. That was, and you know, hitting tough shots as well. You know, he stepped up.
Yeah, you know, I've been super impressed with him. I'm excited for him and his future as a young player. He's 25 years old. You know, I think that he's just sort of scratching the surface. You know, like he's been sort of some kind of, you know, early on in his career as a junior, he was more of a point guard. He's been more of a wing. We've kind of playing him in a combo where, you know, sometimes he's in a wing, sometimes he's starting the offense, him and Bryce in the backcourt. So, you know, it's a heck of a growth piece for him. I've been very, very impressed with him. He plays really hard. He's diligent. He's got his notebook. He's taking notes. He's watching film. You know, he wants the challenge of the best wing player offensively. It's a heck of a growth period for him and a really cool role to play along with DJ and Bryce and these guys out there. And I can't be more excited about where he's at and where he's going to go.
And can I ask, it's often said that you learn more from your losses than from your wins. Is there something in particular that stands out to you tonight in terms of learning out of the way that unfolded?
Yeah, well, I think there'll be a whole bunch of stuff, to be honest with you. I think coaches, you know, we're supposed to motivate both ways, right? And sometimes you get their attention a little bit more after a loss, just because human nature is you might not have the same attention to detail when you're 3-0. But, you know, we're 4 games into this campaign with quite a new team. Like, I'm actually excited about Tuesday's practice right now. I'll go back and I'll watch the film. We'll correct, we'll teach. It should be a really spirited, really, you know, upbeat, fun practice because, you know, everybody's ready to go get in there and get better, and we'll figure out what we need to do with the challenges that Southeast present.
You have Southeast on Thursday. They're a team that's similar to this Kings team. Is very physical defensively. Is it good to have this film just to have an idea of what that level of physicality
Yeah,
is like?
probably for both of us, right? They've got the style. They just watched it, and it'll be, you know, good for us to watch it and, like I just said, correct and teach and, try to put us in better positions on offense and defense and, how we kind of, function a little bit more on offense.